Some discoveries change everything in an instant. For Sarah Harrison, that moment came on an ordinary Saturday morning in the produce section of her local grocery store. She was reaching for apples when she noticed a woman pushing a cart with a baby seat. The child was maybe 6 or 7 months old, with a shock of bright red hair that caught the fluorescent lights. Sarah almost looked away, but something made her pause. That shade of red was uncommon, a distinctive copper tone that she knew intimately because she saw it in every childhood photo of her brother Daniel. She moved closer, pretending to examine the lettuce, and got a better look at the baby's face. The eyes stopped her cold. They were that specific shade of blue-green that ran in the Harrison family, a color her grandmother used to call sea glass eyes. Sarah had them. Her father had them. Daniel had them. And now this baby, held by a woman Sarah suddenly recognized as her sister-in-law Vanessa, had them too. Her heart started pounding as the pieces clicked into place. The baby looked exactly like Daniel had looked in his baby pictures. The hair, the eyes, even the shape of his face carried unmistakable Harrison features. And when Vanessa answered her phone, Sarah heard her say clearly, "Yes, I just grabbed the diapers. I'll be home in 20 minutes, Daniel." Sarah stood frozen in the produce section, her mind racing. Her brother had a baby. A baby she knew nothing about. A nephew she had never been told existed. The shock gave way quickly to confusion, then hurt, then a burning anger that made her hands shake. She watched Vanessa finish her shopping and head to the checkout. Sarah followed at a distance, through the parking lot, watching which car Vanessa got into. She memorized the license plate and noted the direction Vanessa drove. Then she got in her own car and drove straight to her parents' house. Her mother answered the door with a smile that faded immediately when she saw Sarah's face. "What's wrong? What happened?" her mother asked, ushering her inside. Sarah sat at the kitchen table where she had eaten breakfast for 20 years and told her parents what she had just seen. Her father's first reaction was disbelief. Daniel wouldn't do that. He wouldn't have a baby and not tell us. There must be some mistake. But Sarah described the baby's features in detail, explained what she had overheard, laid out the impossible coincidence it would be if this child wasn't Daniel's. Her mother's face went pale. Her father's jaw clenched in the way it did when he was trying to control his anger. "Call him," her father said, his voice tight. "Call Daniel right now and tell him to get over here. Today. No excuses." It took 3 phone calls before Daniel agreed to come. He arrived alone, which was telling in itself. Sarah watched him walk up the driveway, his shoulders hunched, looking like a man walking to his own execution. When he came inside and saw all 3 of them sitting there waiting, he knew immediately that the secret was out. For 20 minutes, Daniel tried to deflect, to minimize, to explain away what Sarah had seen. But finally, cornered by direct questions and his own guilt, he broke down. Yes, he and Vanessa had a son. His name was Ethan. He was 7 months old. And no, they had not told the Harrison family because Vanessa didn't want them involved. Sarah's mother started crying. Her father's face turned red with fury. Sarah herself felt a cold rage that was almost paralyzing. "How could you?" she asked Daniel. "How could you hide your own child from us? How could you let us miss 7 months of his life?" Daniel's excuses came tumbling out. Vanessa had strong feelings about privacy. She wanted to establish their own family unit before bringing in extended family. She needed time to adjust to motherhood. She found the Harrison family overwhelming and intrusive. On and on, a litany of justifications that sounded hollow even as he spoke them. But Sarah wasn't buying it. She had always found Vanessa cold and distant, but this was something else entirely. This was deliberate isolation, cutting Daniel off from his own family. And Daniel, her little brother who had always been a people pleaser, had apparently been too weak to stand up to his wife. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah became obsessed with understanding what had really happened. She called Daniel repeatedly, pushing past his defenses, demanding the full story. She talked to mutual friends, pieced together timelines, and slowly the truth emerged. The real story started 3 years earlier when Vanessa had gotten pregnant shortly after the wedding. She had miscarried at 12 weeks, a devastating loss that sent her into a deep depression. During that dark time, Sarah's mother had tried to be supportive but had said things that Vanessa interpreted as insensitive. Comments about how common first trimester miscarriages were, how she would be able to try again soon, how these things happened for a reason. Sarah's mother had meant well, trying to provide perspective and hope, but Vanessa had heard dismissal and cruelty. From that point on, Vanessa had harbored a deep resentment toward the Harrison family. When she got pregnant with Ethan, she was determined to keep them at a distance. She told Daniel that his family didn't respect her, didn't support her, and would undermine her as a mother. She painted a picture of the Harrisons as toxic and invasive, and Daniel, still guilty about not having protected her better during the miscarriage, believed her. But as Sarah dug deeper, she discovered something even more disturbing. Through a casual conversation with one of Vanessa's cousins at a chance meeting, Sarah learned that while the Harrison family was being completely excluded, Vanessa's own family was deeply involved. Her parents were at Daniel and Vanessa's house constantly, helping with the baby, making decisions about childcare and feeding schedules, even pressuring Daniel about financial decisions and his will. Vanessa wasn't protecting her family unit from interference. She was replacing Daniel's family with her own, systematically isolating him while tightening the control her family had over his life. It was textbook manipulation, and Daniel was so deep in it that he couldn't see what was happening. Sarah knew she had to do something. She started by documenting everything, screenshots of text messages where Daniel admitted he wanted his family to meet Ethan but was afraid of upsetting Vanessa, notes from conversations where he expressed feeling trapped and controlled. She consulted with a family lawyer about grandparents' rights and found that in their state, grandparents could petition for visitation under certain circumstances, especially if one parent was deliberately alienating the child from family. Then she decided to confront Vanessa directly. She showed up at their house unannounced on a Thursday afternoon when she knew Daniel would be at work. Vanessa answered the door with Ethan on her hip, her face hardening when she saw Sarah. The conversation that followed was brutal. Sarah accused Vanessa of manipulation and control. Vanessa accused Sarah of being invasive and unable to respect boundaries. Sarah pointed out that having her own family involved while excluding Daniel's was hypocritical. Vanessa claimed the situations were different because her family respected her wishes while Daniel's family constantly criticized her. It went in circles until finally Vanessa said the quiet part out loud. Daniel has to choose. Either he's committed to our family, to me and Ethan, or he's still tied to his parents and sister. He can't have both. I won't allow it. Sarah left shaking with anger. The ultimatum was cruel and unfair, and the fact that Daniel seemed ready to choose Vanessa's demands over his own family broke Sarah's heart. But she also realized that direct confrontation with Vanessa would only entrench her position. She needed to reach Daniel, to help him see what was happening before it was too late. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Sarah's father, normally a man of few words, asked Daniel to meet him for coffee. Just the two of them, no agenda, no confrontation. Daniel agreed, probably out of guilt. They sat in a small diner and talked for 3 hours. Sarah's father didn't lecture or criticize. He just asked questions. Are you happy? Do you feel like you can make decisions in your own marriage? When was the last time you did something just because you wanted to, not because Vanessa approved? Do you really believe we're toxic, or is that just what you've been told? Something about the gentleness of the approach cracked Daniel's defenses. He started crying in that diner, admitting that he was exhausted, that he felt like he was walking on eggshells constantly, that he wanted his family to know his son but was terrified of what would happen if he pushed back against Vanessa's wishes. He admitted that Vanessa had threatened divorce and full custody if he brought his family around without her explicit permission. Sarah's father listened and then said something that changed everything. Son, the person who really loves you doesn't make you choose between them and everyone else who loves you. They don't isolate you from your family. They don't threaten to take your child away if you don't obey. That's not love. That's control. And you deserve better. With support from his family and encouragement from his father, Daniel finally found the courage to establish boundaries. He told Vanessa that his family would meet Ethan, that this wasn't negotiable, and that if she couldn't accept that, they needed to either start marriage counseling or consider whether their marriage could continue. Vanessa reacted with fury at first. She accused him of betraying her, of not protecting their family, of choosing his parents over his wife. But when she realized Daniel was serious, that he was actually willing to separate rather than continue living under her control, something shifted. She agreed to counseling. The therapist they found was experienced with controlling relationship dynamics and quickly identified the patterns in their marriage. Vanessa's unresolved trauma from the miscarriage, combined with her need for control stemming from childhood issues, had created a toxic environment where she couldn't tolerate Daniel having any significant relationships outside of her approval. The therapist worked with both of them, but particularly challenged Vanessa to recognize how her behavior was isolating and harmful. Progress was slow and painful. There were setbacks and arguments and moments when it seemed like the marriage wouldn't survive. But gradually, with professional help and Daniel's newfound willingness to stand firm, things began to change. Sarah met Ethan officially when he was 10 months old. She held her nephew for the first time in her parents' living room, and the mix of emotions was overwhelming. Joy at finally having him in her arms. Sadness for the months lost that she could never get back. Anger at Vanessa for stealing that time. Gratitude that Daniel had finally found the strength to push back. Ethan looked up at her with those sea glass eyes that marked him as a Harrison, and Sarah made a silent promise that she would always be there for him, that he would grow up knowing his whole family, knowing he was loved from all sides. The relationship between Sarah and Vanessa would probably never be warm. There was too much hurt, too much damage. But they established a civil détente for Daniel and Ethan's sake. Boundaries were set and respected. Family gatherings happened with careful planning and clear expectations. It wasn't perfect, but it was functional. Daniel slowly reconnected with his family, though the trust that had been broken would take years to fully rebuild. He had missed holidays, birthdays, family moments that couldn't be recovered. He had chosen his wife's control over his family's love, and while everyone understood the complexity of what he had been through, forgiveness didn't erase the consequences. But Ethan, innocent of all the drama and manipulation that had surrounded his birth, got what every child deserves. He got grandparents who adored him. He got an aunt who showed up for every birthday and milestone. He got cousins to play with and family traditions to be part of. He got the full richness of a large, loving family instead of being confined to the narrow world Vanessa had tried to create. Sarah often thought about that Saturday morning in the grocery store, about the shock of seeing red hair and sea glass eyes on a baby she didn't know existed. It was a terrible way to find out she was an aunt. But if she hadn't been there, if she hadn't seen Ethan, how much longer would Daniel have hidden his son? Would he have ever found the strength to push back against Vanessa's control? Sometimes the worst moments lead to the most important changes. Sometimes discovering a secret, as painful as that discovery might be, is the catalyst needed to break through years of dysfunction and finally set things right. So what would you have done in Sarah's position? Would you have confronted your brother immediately or given him space to explain? How would you handle discovering that a manipulative spouse had isolated your sibling from your entire family? How far would you go to ensure a child had access to the family they deserved? These are questions without easy answers, situations where every choice comes with costs and consequences. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear how you would navigate this painful and complex situation. If you found this story compelling, if it made you think about family dynamics and the fine line between respecting boundaries and enabling isolation, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our stories. And be sure to watch the next recommended video where we explore another case of family secrets and the courage it takes to bring hidden truths into the light. Thank you for being here with us through this difficult journey.